What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about how Dricus Du Plessis can beat Sean Strickland, and I will be mentioning some of the factors that I think will be in his favor leading into UFC 297 fight week, and just how I would break down this fight. This is not my official prediction. That video will come out on Wednesday after I come out with another video talking about how Sean Strickland can beat Dricus Du Plessis. But with that being said, let's get into the video. I want to talk about how Dricus Du Plessis should game plan against Sean Strickland, where I think he can have success, and just how to analyze their last recent fights. First, let's start out with talking about their styles. Dricus Du Plessis is the definition of physically imposing. He's got a great chin, he's got very solid power, he's got some nice submissions, and he is strong. He's the definition of brute strength. This guy, I think, can find the takedowns. I think he can win on the feet, potentially find the knockout. But Sean Strickland is a gamed opponent who can impose his own style. Sean Strickland, great cardio. Better cardio than Dricus Du Plessis, but I will say, I have underestimated Dricus Du Plessis' cardio in the past. I came in with a video, I want to say 3 or so weeks ago, just kind of giving a basic breakdown of this fight, but now I went back and rewatched some of the film of Dricus Du Plessis. Seeing him fight against Brad Tavares and some other fighters, I can now say that this guy has pretty good cardio, and I do think there is a world where he can make 5 rounds of cardio. I think he's got 3 solid rounds of cardio, and if it hits rounds 4 and 5, I really can see Sean Strickland having some success there. But that being said, seeing that Dricus Du Plessis has great power, has so much danger on the ground, I think he could potentially find the victory before it gets to those late rounds. He could potentially find the finish, is what I'm getting at. On the feet, Sean Strickland has a boxing-heavy approach. Essentially, the easiest way to break down Sean Strickland's style is he's going to try and pressure you, land a lot of jabs, land a lot of straight rights, and a lot of teeps to the body. That's essentially it. He's a very fundamental striker. He doesn't really vary too much from the game plan. Doesn't really throw many leg kicks. He does throw some body kicks, but mainly it's teeps to the bodies, jabs down the pipe, straight rights, and he's a solid striker. He recently just beat Israel Adesanya, which was a very, very impressive performance. But if I'm on the Dricus Du Plessis side, I look at that performance and I see Israel Adesanya backing up, allowing Sean Strickland to pressure, and allowing Sean Strickland to work his own game plan. I would argue that Sean Strickland had a very good style to beat Israel Adesanya. Now, obviously, there are other fighters within the division that Sean Strickland has a better style to beat, but when it comes to the top of the top, Sean Strickland was almost a stylistic nightmare for Israel Adesanya, because when you look at it, Sean Strickland's going to go in there wanting to pressure a guy like Israel Adesanya, going to look for the straight punches that are very quick, the jab, the straight right, the teep to the body. He worked it nonstop, and he had much improved striking defense. He was he was checking a lot of the leg kicks coming his way from Israel Adesanya, was able to get out of the way from a lot of Israel Adesanya's counters and stay away from the power of Israel Adesanya. What's so interesting about this fight is going to be the pressure. Sean Strickland's going to want to pressure. The question is, can he? Dricus Du Plessis is so dangerous on the feet, it might be really, really dumb for Sean Strickland to pressure Dricus Du Plessis. Now, with that being said, I think he could potentially find success if he really works a jab. Really works that teep to the body nonstop and keeps Dricus Du Plessis out of his range, maybe he finds success. But ultimately, Dricus Du Plessis is a guy that is going to come at you nonstop. When he is in the fight, this guy is going to pressure you. He's going to potentially shoot takedowns. He is going to make sure to put Sean Strickland off the back foot. And when you look at Sean Strickland's recent fights against Jared Cannonier, I was going to mention Jack Hermanson, that is a while ago. But when you look at some of his recent fights, when Sean Strickland is off the back foot, he doesn't have the greatest counters, and he doesn't have the greatest power, which is why Dricus Du Plessis really should go with the pressure-heavy game plan. Now, personally, I don't want to see him working the grappling too much. I see a lot of people saying, oh, Sean Strickland can stuff the takedowns from Dricus Du Plessis. You know, Dricus Du Plessis got taken down by Robert Whittaker and Derek Brunson, and Sean Strickland has stuffed takedowns from Jack Hermanson, man. I think Dricus Du Plessis can take him down. He is the stronger guy. He is such a big threat on the feet that it's going to be dumb from Sean Strickland to just be waiting. Not dumb, but it's going to be hard for Sean Strickland to really focus on the takedowns that are incoming, if you understand what I'm saying. I think Sean Strickland is going to be so focused on staying away from the power of Dricus Du Plessis that if Dricus gets a good shot on Sean Strickland, he'll be able to find the takedowns. Sean Strickland got taken down by Abus Magomedov. Abus Magomedov found his back. And also, in the Jack Hermanson fight, I was recently rewatching that. I think it was the first round. Jack Hermanson shot a takedown. He didn't get it upon the first shot. But then as Sean Strickland was kind of scrambling or just stuffing the takedown in the process of separating from the clinch, he made a mistake and Jack Hermansson did get a hold of his back. Now, Sean Strickland separated the hands and got out into the open, but I think Dricus Du Plessis is strong enough to potentially finish that takedown. And against Abu Magomedov, when Sean Strickland had his back taken, if that's Dricus Du Plessis, I think he is the better jiu-jitsu. The more dangerous top control, he'll be threatening ground and pound strikes, and it may force Sean Strickland into a bad position on the ground. I think he can find success on the ground, but I do think Sean Strickland has solid submission defense. He is a BJJ black belt, and there are a lot of people within his camp saying he is such a good wrestler. Now, personally, I'm not going to say Sean Strickland's an elite wrestler just because Chris Curtis and Eric Nixick and everyone in his camp says so, but I do think he has a solid wrestling base. He took down Uriah Hall like 4 times. Did he get a takedown on Jack Hermansson? I'm not entirely sure, but he got a takedown on Jared Cannonier, one on Nasruddin Imavov. Like, he's shown some decent wrestling to his game. I just think with a guy like Dricus Du Plessis that has such a big threat on the feet, it's going to be hard for him to really focus on stuffing the takedowns if Dricus really explodes into them. The reason why I don't want Dricus to really work in the grappling early, not early, just go with the grapple-heavy game plan, is because against Darren Till and against Derek Brunson, where he went with some heavy grappling exchanges, and in my opinion, those were the 2 fights where he looked the most fatigued. I get it, in round 3, he did find the takedown and eventually did submit Darren Till in round 3. That was one of those performances where he clearly was slowing down. And in round 1, there was a lot of grappling action. I understand Dricus Du Plessis literally landed around 100 strikes on Darren Till that round and went through just a lot of his gas tank in round 1. Now, do I think he was gassing out? No, he seemed to find a second wind or a third wind even in the 3rd round. But it was clear that he wasn't as fresh as he was in the later rounds than he was in a fight against like Brad Tavares. And also something to note is Brad Tavares was coached by Eric Nixick in that fight, and Eric Nixick is Sean Strickland's coach. So this isn't Sean Strickland's coach's first time dealing with Dricus Du Plessis. Now, Dricus Du Plessis really had success against Brad Tavares, and Brad Tavares wasn't able to make the adjustments that he needed to in order to beat Dricus Du Plessis. So, very interesting factor there. But yeah, I was going to talk about Derek Brunson, and give me one moment. Brad Tavares, no, not Brad Tavares, and Darren Till. Yeah, we're talking about his gas tank. Sorry, I got lost there a little bit. He definitely slowed down a little bit. Round 2 against Derek Brunson, he was landing great shots, and like I said, his cardio, when he looks tired and he looks physically fatigued, he's still able to push through, keep a high output, and land a lot of strikes. Derek Brunson getting tagged. They threw in the towel because of how much Dricus Du Plessis was landing on the guy. Darren Till was landing on him a lot in round 2. Dricus Du Plessis still finds some takedowns, finds a way to not get finished, but even then, his chin holds up very well. I feel like Darren Till wasn't even like rocking him. Maybe he stunned him at one point, but even then, Dricus Du Plessis recovers, kind of gets his wind back, shoots a takedown, finds a takedown. Round 3, same thing, getting hit with some big shots, gets his air back, starts breathing nice, finds a takedown, submits Darren Till in round 3. I just do think that when I go out there and see him, really struggling with fatigue, his gas tank a little bit in these performances where he's going with a more grapple-heavy game plan, or maybe not even a grapple-heavy game plan, but just initiating more grappling exchanges, I do think that could potentially hinder his cardio later. And if I was Dricus Du Plessis, I would maybe shoot a takedown early. I would tell him to shoot a takedown early just to give Sean Strickland something to worry about. Then he could feint a takedown, potentially throw something off of that. Give something to drop Sean Strickland's hands, because we've seen Sean Strickland drop his hands before against Alex Pereira. Granted, it wasn't a takedown feint, but we have seen Sean Strickland drop his hands before to stuff a takedown, obviously. If he can get the takedown feints working, maybe he feints a takedown, goes up top with the left hook, goes up top with an uppercut, does the Yuri Prochazka scenario where he did that against Alex Pereira. Not the scenario, combination, whatever it is. You get what I'm fucking saying. Dricus Du Plessis, I think, should shoot a takedown first round or so. Even if he doesn't get it, that's a new feint that he can set up. That's a new thing Sean Strickland has to worry about on top of the massive power that he has to stay away from. Sean Strickland is very defensively sound. I feel like I didn't really go into too big a detail of the Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya fight. Sorry, I kind of go all over the place. That's just how I, talk. Sorry about that. Sean Strickland, when he fought Israel Adesanya, had a very, very solid game plan, just because it was stay out of the nice counter shots from Israel Adesanya, stay away from the power, check the leg kicks, and put on pressure. Don't really stray too far away from the game plan. And that's what he did. He landed a bunch of jabs, kept Izzy on the back foot, and succeeded that way. When we look at Sean Strickland's career off the back foot, there's not too many fights. He hasn't fought many power punchers throughout his career. For example, the one power puncher that he really did fight recently was Jared Cannonier. and he lost that fight. Now, it was a very close decision. Some people thought it was a robbery. Some people thought Cannonier won. Some people thought Sean Strickland won after rewatching that fight twice on top of the one live fight. So I've seen the fight 3 times. That was a super, super close fight. You can go any way that you want. And I'll say this much. Sean Strickland rolled with the punches pretty well in the Jared Cannonier fight. I know he got caught clean a couple of times, but there is no strike in that fight that if Jared Cannonier was Dricus Du Plessis, let me try to phrase that a little bit better. There is no strike that Jared Cannonier landed on Sean Strickland in that fight that if it was Dricus Du Plessis landing that punch, I'm confident put Sean Strickland away, because I think Sean Strickland is underratedly very, very durable. The 2 times he's gotten KO'd throughout his career is by Alex Pereira's left hook. The left hook that knocked out Yuri Prochazka. Yes, Alex Pereira, one of the most powerful guys pound for pound, and this was at the middleweight division. Even then, when Sean Strickland ate that left hook, he wasn't fully knocked out. It wasn't a flatline KO. Alex Pereira landed 2 more strikes on the way down. Now, even then he wasn't even flatlined, but that doesn't mean that he would have recovered. He tried to get back up and clearly was very rocked. Alex Pereira probably could have flatlined it. But what I'm saying is the immediate concussive impact doesn't flatline this guy at all times, which is a positive sign, and I know we're kind of going very nitty-gritty right now. But let's talk about Elijah Zaleski dos Santos, the other KO in his career. Lands a wheel kick on Sean Strickland. There was still needed follow-up shots to get Sean Strickland out of there. He's got a good chin. When Kamaru Usman dropped him way, way long ago, I can pull it up right now. That was 2017. Pre-pubescent Sean Strickland, when he was still a Nazi at that point. He got dropped, and then he was able to survive. He recovered, put his head in a safe place on the ground, which is what Colby Covington was actually trying to do against Kamaru Usman in their first fight in the 5th round, and he ended up surviving. He's got solid chin recovery, and I don't think Dricus Du Plessis has the same level of power as Alex Pereira. That doesn't mean that he can't knock out Sean Strickland. I think that is a very, very possible option. And when I mentioned the Jared Cannonier fight, that doesn't mean that I think it's going to be the same. If I had to critique Jared Cannonier's game plan, it was just the fact that he wasn't really trusting his power. He didn't really sit down on his shots. And also what I would like to mention, the main thing that I really was not liking about Cannonier's game plan, and he was going tit for tat with Sean Strickland. He would throw like maybe 2 to 3 punch combinations, and that was it. And then he'd back off, and then he'd reset, and then he'd go back in Sean Strickland's range and entertain Sean Strickland's game plan. And Dricus Du Plessis, this is one of the main reasons why I do not mind him knocking out Sean Strickland, goes out there and throws 3, 4, 5 punch combinations, works in the leg kicks. And when you look at Sean Strickland and his ability to check leg kicks, he's much better when he's pressuring opponents, because that's what he does when he's sparring. He spars nonstop, pressuring opponents. Not many opponents are pressuring him while sparring. But when he gets pressured, that's when we saw Jared Cannonier land more leg kicks on him. That's when we saw Jack Hermanson land more leg kicks on him. I would mention Nasruddin Imavov, but he didn't really pressure all that much. He landed some leg kicks. But if you watch the fight with Jack Hermanson, there are moments where when he's pressuring Sean Strickland, he found a little bit more success with the leg kicks. And that's not saying that Sean Strickland is going to get his legs absolutely chewed apart because Dricus Du Plessis inserts the pressure on Sean Strickland. But I do think that off the back foot, Sean Strickland has much less for Dricus Du Plessis, and Dricus Du Plessis has the tools to keep Sean Strickland off the back foot. The question is, can Sean Strickland survive or even get his pressure going in one of the first 3 rounds? But I like the leg kicks from Dricus Du Plessis here. He targets them against almost all of his opponents. In his recent performance against Robert Whittaker, which is something I've been meaning to mention throughout this video, he looked improved. He did. He looked quick. And Robert Whittaker is one of the quicker fighters in this division. Dricus Du Plessis didn't look that much slower than him. I was expecting Robert Whittaker to win in that fight. Granted, I gave Dricus Du Plessis a better chance than I think a lot of other people did. I said 35% chance that Dricus Du Plessis beats Robert Whittaker because of how physically imposing he is. Great chin, great power. Robert Whittaker is good, but he doesn't have the greatest chin. He doesn't have the greatest power. And I can see Dricus Du Plessis just disregarding the power from Robert Whittaker and just running at him and finding a KO. And that wasn't exactly what happened. I think Robert Whittaker was playing off the back foot pretty well. Staying out of the power from Dricus Du Plessis pretty well. And eventually he went, I think he was going for a strike, and then Dricus Du Plessis landed that jab/hook type of a thing. And it really hurt Robert Whittaker, and then he went with the long flurry and ended up finishing off Robert Whittaker. Very, very impressive. He won round 1 as well. I think he was a little bit down on the scorecards on the feet, and then he found the takedown and landed some massive ground and pound shots. And before that, a lot of people were saying Robert Whittaker has great takedown defense. A lot of people would have been picking Robert Whittaker over Khamzat Chimaev for that reason. With that being said, impressive from Dricus Du Plessis. Looked quick. He wasn't really gassing. Robert Whittaker didn't look like he was in his greatest shape. I mean, he was mouth breathing a little bit. I will say this much. Some people are saying, well, he made Robert Whittaker gas out. I'm not going to say that as true. I mean, did Robert Whittaker say it in an interview? I mean, if he said that, then sure, that might change my outlook on it, but I haven't really studied Robert Whittaker's breathing patterns, so I'm not going to go as far to say as Robert Whittaker was gassing, because maybe he is a guy that just breathes through his mouth sometimes. I will say this much. Dricus Du Plessis pushes such a high pace that I can see him going out there and making Sean Strickland tired in the later rounds. Against Nasruddin Imavov, granted, it was on short notice, like 2 weeks short notice. He wasn't in the greatest shape of his career. He was gassed out in the 5th round, and he was kind of holding on to survive. Not holding on to survive, but he was initiating clenching exchanges because he was gassing out, and he wasn't as fresh as he was in the earlier rounds. I still think Sean Strickland has the better cardio here. If you go and you look on Sean Strickland's Instagram, the dude has shredded abs. He's looking in great fucking shape. I do think he is the better cardio, but I think there is something to be said with Dricus Du Plessis' ability to push an insane pace against his opponents and forcing his opponents to fight at his pace, respect everything that he has. I don't know if Sean Strickland will end up gassing out, but I'm not ruling it out of the realm of possibility. I do think Sean Strickland will have 5 rounds of cardio. I do think a large part to reason why he was gassing out against Nasruddin Imavov had to do with the fact that he took it on short notice. Yeah, man, Dricus Du Plessis, I underrated his cardio. I do think he will fatigue as it gets to rounds 4 and 5. He will get more sloppy. That's just what he does. That's what anyone else would do. He throws almost every single strike with 100% power. And that's just going to naturally fatigue you and your muscles, slow down your gas tank. But even then, against Brad Tavares in round 3, the dude is exploding off the back foot. That's what I wanted to talk about too. If Sean Strickland is able to put Dricus Du Plessis off the back foot, Dricus Du Plessis is able to explode. They mentioned the famous Dricus Blitz, and a lot of people have criticized it, but in this matchup against a guy like Sean Strickland, who doesn't have many great pull counters, he's not going to be the guy in this matchup that I want to see biting down on the mouthpiece and going into the brawling exchanges with Dricus. I don't see him being able to counter the Dricus Blitz too well. Now, maybe he just moves out the way, and that is what it is. But Dricus Du Plessis, where was I going with that? What the fuck? I just lost my train of thought. A lot of times in the open, when fighters are swinging hooks or they're swinging some heavy punches, you'll see Sean Strickland reach out his arms like this. And Dricus Du Plessis, when he is blitzing, and there's another fucking thing I want to bring up here too. I just want to lose my train of thought, sorry. Sean Strickland will kind of put his arms out in the open, which makes it hard for opponents to land for sure, but Dricus is going to follow up with 3 to 4 to 5 hooks, and he's going to keep swinging at Sean Strickland. Not how Jared Cannonier did, not how Jack Hermanson did, not how Imavov did. He's going to continue the combination. He's going to look for the leg kick. And Sean Strickland's stance is straight up, like a tower, man. Perpendicular. I don't know if perpendicular is the right word, but if you go back and watch any of his fights, he is straight up, which makes it very hard to move directly behind you. I don't know if it's not laterally, but the opposite of laterally, directly behind you. Just with the way his weight is distributed, it's going to be very hard for him to move out of the way of Dricus Du Plessis exploding off the back foot with his Dricus Blitz. We saw Trevin Giles get knocked out with the same ability of Dricus Du Plessis to explode off the back foot and find the KO. Now, like I'm going to mention, Sean Strickland, very durable, can survive the shots. I don't have an official prediction yet, even though I have a lean right now. I don't want to say it out loud because I feel like I'm going to jinx it. I'll say this much. I'll have my video out tomorrow on how Sean Strickland can beat Dricus Du Plessis. I'll have my insight on that, and I know that Dricus Du Plessis is the much more flashy pick, and there are much more reasons to pick Dricus Du Plessis than to pick Sean Strickland because Sean Strickland's game plan is very simple. He's going to go out there, and he's either going to try to win a decision, stay away from the power of Dricus Du Plessis, stuff the takedowns. Maybe he works in some grappling. That'd be interesting to see. But Dricus Du Plessis has some solid jiu-jitsu. I think he has 9 or 10 submissions to his record right now throughout his career. He's got solid grappling in his own right, so I don't know if I would want to entertain that if I'm Sean Strickland. But if I'm Sean Strickland, I might look at wanting to keep it on the feet, working the jab, and just winning it by decision or surviving. Maybe that's the plan. Survive, and then as the fight gets later, finding the KOs. His game plan is a lot easier. Maybe he also does work in the grappling because we have seen, like I mentioned earlier in the video, Dricus Du Plessis slow down the most in fights where there are a lot of grappling exchanges. So that'll be interesting to see, but I will mention a lot more factors on the Sean Strickland side, but I'll say this much. There are so many more factors to like about the Dricus Du Plessis side, and I'm going to get back to it. There's more factors that I want to talk about. Let's talk about ripping to the body. I think Sean Strickland has always been open to getting hits to the body. Maybe not as much with the kicks, but Dricus does have some nice kicks to the body, which will be there. We saw Abu Magomedov and Nasruddin Imavov land some very nice teeps to the body. I don't think Dricus is going to work the teeps to the body all that much because that's very good at keeping your opponent at range, and Dricus kind of wants to keep it a fight that's a little bit closer so he can find the bigger shots. Wing his hooks in there. Land the big shot on Sean Strickland. But I have seen him against Brad Tavares and other opponents rip down to the body with a nice little uppercut to the body. I think that's a very great shot to land against Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland, in my opinion, has always been very open to the body with the way he stands. Like I said, it's just going to be very hard for him to move back with the stance that he has. I don't see him changing his stance, kind of angling forward a little bit more so he can be a little bit more explosive and able to just stay out of the way from the Dricus Blitz. But like I said, I mean, Sean Strickland is very defensively sound. He's a very solid ability to even roll with punches when he does get hit. But when I saw Jared Cannonier have the most success and land the biggest shots, and it's when he was following through with his combinations. Let's talk about the press conference and how that can affect Sean Strickland. If he goes out there getting super aggressive and really looking for the knockout, that could potentially gas him out. Because when he was going hard against Nasruddin Imavov, and I know it was a short notice fight, but it slowed him down. And I don't want Sean Strickland looking for the knockout. I don't want him to get in a dick measuring contest looking to knock out Dricus Du Plessis. I think that could really work to his demise, because then he might not be prepared for Dricus exploding off the back foot. And I will say this much, Dricus Du Plessis has some nice kicks off the back foot. We saw it a lot against Brad Tavares, even in the Roberto Soldic fights. But Sean Strickland has shown a pretty solid ability to check kicks off the back foot against Israel Adesanya and other fighters as well. Not off the back foot, off the front foot when he's pressuring. His striking defense does seem to be a little bit better, just because that's how he's going to be accustomed to fighting with the way that he spars everybody. But I'll say this much, Sean Strickland has some nice sparring partners. I really do like that gym. But he doesn't seem like the type of guy that's really analyzing this Dricus fight from an analytical perspective. He's probably not going back, rewatching all the film. I know his coach is very smart, but there's been multiple instances of Sean Strickland not following what his coach has said. After watching the Imavov fight, the Hermanson fight, they say, get your volume up. The Cannonier fight, get your volume up, Sean. Get your volume up. And maybe it goes up by 5 or 6 strikes. Sean, work the teep to the body, and it takes 2 or 3 rounds to go or get going. Sometimes he doesn't make the adjustments right away that his coaches are telling him. Against Israel Adesanya, I mean, it probably did really work out well. I heard Israel Adesanya saying that Eric Nixick was working wonders for Sean Strickland, calling out everything that Israel Adesanya was looking for, which ended up working out very well for Sean Strickland. So maybe they have a better relationship now, and Sean Strickland's doing better at incorporating what they're saying into the game plan. But I don't know. Honestly, I think Dricus Du Plessis has a clear game plan, and he has more ways to win than Sean Strickland. Maybe Sean Strickland can find the submission if Dricus Du Plessis gasses late. But I think Sean Strickland's main successes are going to be in the later rounds, where he has to survive the onslaught from Dricus Du Plessis, who has solid power, solid submissions, overall a very well-rounded guy. And on the feet, he's going to bring a style that Sean Strickland hasn't really dealt with in his career recently at this high of level. Dricus Du Plessis running through guys, KOing everybody. We've only seen him go to a decision once in his career against Brad Tavares, and in the 3rd round, he pushed a very great pace despite being tired. And when he is tired, I feel like he picks his shots a little bit better. It's almost like he recharges, gets some nice air into his lungs, and then from there, he lands some big shots. And he was connecting with some very, very big shots against Brad Tavares. Now, would I like to see them knock out Brad Tavares before I can be very confident in Dricus Du Plessis being able to knock out Sean Strickland? Yes, 100%. But if I'm going to play the devil's advocate, that was in round 3. After Dricus was looking a little bit fatigued, especially after pushing the pace that he did in the 2nd round. The 1st round had a lot of grappling, but there was some striking and some grappling exchanges that definitely did require a lot of physical energy. But I think Dricus Du Plessis has had a lot of time to prepare for this fight. It was at UFC 290 that he fought last. It's now been 7 months off. Apparently he was injured. Thankfully he did get his title shot. The UFC almost tried to hoe him out of his title shot, but Israel Adesanya lost, so that worked out pretty well. Well, maybe he would have got the title shot anyways. But anyways, I'm glad he got his title shot. I am so excited for this fight. I think Dricus Du Plessis has a lot of ways to win this fight. I want him to go out there, maybe shoot a takedown early. I'm just going to review everything. I want him to go out there, shoot a takedown early, go out there, and just string together long combinations. Because Sean Strickland seems out of place after he dodges a couple of punches from Jared Cannonier, a couple of punches from Israel Adesanya. Whereas if you continue through with Sean Strickland being so out of place with his arms over here or his head super far on this side, I think you could find a big shot. And I do like that Dricus Du Plessis rips to the body with his hands. I think that will bring him a lot of success. The leg kicks will be more successful when he's pressuring Sean Strickland. I think he has the tools to pressure Sean Strickland, but Sean Strickland also has the tools to survive this fight and have success in the later rounds. So this is a very interesting prediction. I'm just going to refresh my mind right now to make sure I don't miss out on anything that I wanted to mention here. I wanted to talk about how Dricus can make it 5 rounds. The dude's got a great chin. And we have seen fighters shoot in on takedowns against Sean Strickland. And when they fail, Sean Strickland takes a while to get out of the clinch. I want to say Sean Strickland had Nasruddin Imavov hurt in one of the first 3 rounds. Maybe it was the 4th round. I want to say it was the 3rd or 4th round. Maybe the first 3. I'd have to rewatch it again, but I don't want to do that because it wasn't the most entertaining fight. But it was a more entertaining Sean Strickland fight. Anyways, Nasruddin Imavov was hurt at some point, and he gets into the clinch with Sean Strickland and is able to survive. Sean Strickland doesn't really explode out of the clinch. If Dricus Du Plessis is getting tagged with big shots, I could see him getting into the clinch and surviving, holding on to the clinch, maybe finding a takedown, but ultimately just holding on to the clinch, getting his breath back, maybe clinching up with Sean Strickland more, and then surviving the late rounds. I do think that he has 3 solid rounds of cardio at least. He now has a nose fixture. Who knows how that'll play out. He didn't really look super gassed against Robert Whittaker in the 2nd round, but he was mouth breathing. But in all fairness, that's probably just how he breathes. I've been watching interviews of this guy saying, look, I don't feel as gassed as you guys say I am. Like, I have better cardio than it looks. I understand maybe I look sloppy at times and I'm mouth breathing, but I'm not as gassed as you guys think I am. And ultimately, I do feel like I have underestimated Dricus Du Plessis' cardio in the past. Do I think he's going to go out there with 5 solid rounds of Dricus Du Plessis cardio? No. What I mean by that is he going to push the same pace that he does normally for 5 rounds? I don't think so. Is it possible with his nose fixture and his ability to prepare for this fight for a long time? Absolutely. I am super excited for this fight. I think Dricus Du Plessis has more ways to win this fight. I think he can have more success later than people are talking about, and I think he will be able to pressure Sean Strickland. But Sean Strickland has an ability off the back foot to switch stances, land a jab, and just kind of stay fundamentally safe. I just think Dricus Du Plessis and his team know what they're doing. They've talked about nonstop pressuring Dricus Du Plessis. Reverse that, I meant Sean Strickland. They know to pressure Sean Strickland. I feel like Dricus Du Plessis is going to be watching film on Sean Strickland, unlike Sean Strickland. We've seen Sean Strickland go out there, talk about Nasruddin Imavov. Oh, he's just a soft Frenchie. When he's fighting fucking Alex Pereira, he's going out there saying, oh, he's just a glory kickboxer that stands like this. It doesn't seem like there's anything really analytical or, I mean, analytical is probably an annoying word for it, but there's any research outside of being into the octagon, sparring with other fighters in his camp that he's doing. You understand what I'm saying? So I think if anyone has the edge mentally from maybe not a trash talking perspective, but if anyone does, it's probably Dricus Du Plessis. But if anyone has the edge, it's going to be Dricus Du Plessis just because he's going to be watching film. His coach seems smart. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. That's going to conclude it. If there's any fights from Dricus Du Plessis or Sean Strickland you feel like I didn't mention that could potentially change something about what I said in this video, or there's a point that you disagree with, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'm completely open-minded. What I say doesn't mean it's the truth. I'm completely open-minded. Like I said, I haven't watched all of Dricus Du Plessis' EFC, KSW, and K1 fights. If there's one that you think I should go back and rewatch to see something else that I haven't really seen or mentioned throughout this video, feel free to. But yeah, I think I got a pretty solid read on this fight. I've done a lot of research for this fight. I cannot wait. Yeah, man, that's going to conclude this video. Like I said, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow and the day after. Peace.